Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Your support keeps these terrifying stories alive, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. Now, listen carefully. If you ever hear your own name whispered in the dark and you know you're alone, don't answer, because that's when it knows it has found you. This is the story of the night something whispered my name and changed the way I see the world forever. I used to live in a small cabin deep in the woods of northern Montana. My family owned the land for decades, and I grew up hearing stories about strange things that happened there. Missing animals, weird footprints, shadows moving between the trees. But I never believed any of it. I always thought people were just superstitious or trying to scare kids like me. That changed last winter. The first time something fell off was a night when the temperature dropped to nearly zero. The wind was howling so hard that my windows rattled nonstop. I was sitting in the living room, trying to stay warm near the fireplace, when I heard something outside. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal. It was breathing. Slow, heavy, human-like breathing. I stood up and went to the window, but the glass was fogged from the heat of the fire. I wiped it with my hand and stared into the dark tree line. Nothing, just the trees moving in the wind. But the breathing didn't stop. It sounded like it was right outside the cabin wall, on the left side, moving slowly toward the back door. I tried to tell myself it was my imagination, but deep down I knew something was watching me. 2 nights later, something happened that I still can't explain. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when I heard footsteps on my porch. Slow, deliberate steps. Someone was walking across the wood planks, stopping every few seconds as if listening. I reached for my phone, but for some reason my hands were shaking so badly I dropped it on the floor. Then the footsteps stopped, right next to my bedroom window. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just waited. And then, so quietly that it felt like the sound was inside my head, I heard my name. Daniel. It wasn't a human voice. It was breathy, deep, almost layered, like 2 or 3 voices whispering together. Every hair on my body stood on end. I felt cold sweep across the room, even though the heater was on. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I stayed frozen for what felt like an hour, though it was probably less than a minute. When I finally built the courage to look toward the window, I saw a shadow move away from it. Not a person's shadow. Something taller, thinner, smoother. It slid away silently, disappearing into the tree line. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I found footprints in the snow. But they weren't footprints. They were long, almost hand-shaped impressions, with claws at the tips. Whatever stood outside my window was not human. I thought about calling the police, but what was I supposed to say? Hi, something whispered my name last night. They would think I was insane. 3 days passed. Nothing else happened. I tried to convince myself that stress was making me see things. But on the 4th night, everything escalated. I woke up at around 2 a.m. to the sound of tapping, slow, rhythmic tapping, coming from the attic above my bed. At first, I thought maybe a branch was hitting the roof, but the tapping was too consistent. And then it began moving from one side of the ceiling to the other, like something crawling. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I grabbed a flashlight and forced myself to go into the hallway. The attic entrance was above the closet. As I stepped under it, the tapping suddenly stopped. Silence. I reached for the string that pulls down the attic ladder. And then, right next to my ear, Daniel. The whisper was so close I felt the warm breath on my neck. I spun around and shined the flashlight in every direction, but there was nothing there. Nothing at all. I slammed the attic door shut and locked myself in my bedroom, pushing a dresser in front of the door. But it didn't matter, because at 3:17 a.m., the whisper came again, from under my bed. Daniel. I jumped out of the room so fast I barely remember touching the floor. I ran outside into the freezing night wearing only socks and a t-shirt. The snow burned my skin, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away from the cabin. That's when I heard the door behind me creak open. Slowly, very slowly. I turned around, shaking uncontrollably, and saw the cabin door wide open. The inside was pitch black. No wind blew it open. Something else did. And then it stepped out. A tall, distorted shape, almost human but wrong in every way. Its limbs were too long, its head slightly tilted as if studying me. Its skin looked pale and stretched, and its eyes, if you can even call them eyes, reflected the moonlight like tiny silver mirrors. It didn't walk. It glided across the snow, and then it whispered my name again, louder this time, clearer, like it wanted me to respond. I ran. I don't remember breathing. I don't remember looking back. I just kept running down the frozen path until I reached my truck. I got inside, locked the doors, and drove until the sun came up. When I returned with help the next morning, the cabin door was shut. Nothing was broken. No footprints. No claw marks. No sign that anything had ever been there. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I packed my things and left that day. I haven't gone back since. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I swear I still hear it. Not outside. Not under my bed. Not in the attic. But in the back of my mind. Whispering. Waiting. Calling my name. And I know that one day, it'll find me again.